Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
Welcome to our service on the Courtyard. We are now in the new month of Av. And when we think about the month of Av, it brings us to think about Jerusalem, about its sorrows, about its joys. And when we stand here on the Courtyard, it looks much like Jerusalem as it was meant to be. So we have our hearts here on Shabbat. We have our hearts in Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, and in particular, the city of Jerusalem. And we sing together, Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Let us sing to God a new song. Romemu, exalt Adonai our God.
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu
Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nikabla. Beloved, come to meet the bride. Come to greet Shabbat.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabla. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, ishmiyanu el ha'meichad. Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, v'shemo tiferet v'titila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabla. Hitoreri, hitoreri, ki va'orech kumi ori. Uri, uri, shidaberi, kevod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabla. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha uvetzola, toch emunei am segula. Oi chala, oi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabla.
Having welcomed the Sabbath bride, we welcome Shabbat and call each other to prayer, rising as we're able for Baruch Hu. We praise God for God's creation as we join together. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Umavir yom umevi laila, mavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzivahot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch alenu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Ma'ariv Aravi. We acknowledge God's eternal love as we read responsively. In each age, we receive and transmit Torah. At each moment, we are addressed by the world. In each age, we are challenged by our ancient teaching.
At each moment, we stand face to face with truth.
In each age, we add our own wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment, the knowing heart is filled with wonder.
In each age, the children of Torah become its builders and seek to set the world firm on a foundation of truth.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך. וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני
Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Last week I spoke of ritual and the power of ritual. And the rabbis created a framework for us to remember the gifts of our lives each and every day. And without those moments, we wouldn't be here. At the beginning, we learn of God's creation. In our prayer, we're called together to remember God's creation with the Ma'ariv, or Avim, the Shema, and her blessings. Call to mind God's revelation as one God. And when we get to the Michamocha, we're reminded of redemption, a time we come to honor the journey through the wilderness, a time freed from slavery, from bondage, a time to remind us that even the Mitzrayim, the narrow places in our worlds that we find ourselves at times, capture us so that we don't have time to see outside ourselves in the moments we get so narrow. So the Michamocha reminds us to expand our minds, to allow us some freedom, the freedom of Shabbat, the freedom to pray, the freedom to have a moment to feel the energy, the blessing, and the gratitudes that we experience. From creation to revelation, we get to Geulah, to redemption, and we sing together. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu shalom. God, give us a place to rest, a sukkah shlomecha, sheltering under your wings, to guide us, to protect us, to enable us to move forward in your blessing.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom vehamidenu shomereinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom vehashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomereinu lechayim. V'hamidenu shomereinu lechayim. Ushma zeitenu u'oeinu lechayim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hashkivenu shomereinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hashkivenu shomereinu lechayim.
V'hamidenu shomereinu leshalom.
V'hamidenu shomereinu lechayim.
V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time.
V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat v'dorotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat v'dorotam berit olam. Beini uvein bnei Yisrael oti leolam. Oti leolam. V'shamru bnei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat v'dorotam berit olam. V'shamru bnei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat v'dorotam berit olam.
Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, asa Adonai את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו
בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
As the rabbis have us create the foundation, so too we enter into the centerpiece of our liturgy, our tefillah, our amidah. I invite you, if you're able, to please rise as we join together.
Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid Teilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, U'mevii Geula Livnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah, Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayeh Mitim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Micha Melocha bal givurot, umido melech, melech memit umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atal hachayot metim, Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hametim.
I invite you to take a few moments for your own silent prayers and reflections as we'll come together in song and in spirit. Take the words and the meditations of your hearts, fill them with a sense of love and gratitude and hope for a time of redemption in which the plagues in which we live in that hold us back can release us with God's grace. Take a moment.
This world Bane, Yalalai, Yalalai.
We take a moment to turn our thoughts to this week, in this week to those who are in need of refuah shlema, recovery of mind, of body, of spirit. We know there are so many out there who are in need of this physical and spiritual, emotional recovery. We think of those in our community: Norman Behrman, Leslie Fathman, Sebastian Ferron, Denise Garrick, Steve Gould, Laura Haberman, Ellen Hutt, Robert Ilko Sr., Heidi Krantz, Nessa Bat Yosefa Shoshana, Patty Peters, Jerry Sampson, Rhonda Schwartz, Maxine Trimble, Gerald Trimble, Leonard Valfer and Fred Valfer, Joe Valsky and Susan Valsky, Sabina Wallach, Rodney Washington, and George Wise. For them, all of us at home that we're thinking of someone, I invite you in this moment to share the names of those you're thinking of, so we can hold them virtually in our space as well. Mishiberach Avotinu Avacham v'Yitzchak v'Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah hu yivarech et hacholim. God of our forefathers and foremothers, bless those with resilience, with recovery, with healing, as we join together for a prayer of healing, a prayer of Mishiberach.
Shabbat shalom. When my grandmother-in-law of blessed memory would watch the news, she would only have one question in mind. Is this good for Israel? The congresswoman won an election. Is it good for Israel? Tech companies are booming. Is it good for Israel? The Chargers moved to LA. Is it good for Israel? I'm guessing that you, as I do, have a similar filter you use when you hear of news, especially involving Jewish people. Is this good for the Jews? Or as we've seen in recent days and in years past, is this bad for the Jews? Why do we ask ourselves these questions? Why is it that we hold ourselves to a higher standard? And why does it seem like others hold us to a higher standard? The beginning of that answer may come from much earlier in our Torah, from the book of Exodus. When the covenant between God and the Israelites is established, God lays out the agreement between us. God says, "So now, if you surely heed my voice and keep my covenant, then you will be to me a valued, particular treasure among all the peoples. Just as all the land is mine, so too will you be to me a kingdom of priests, that is to say, a holy nation." God will have a special relationship with us, and we will be a kingdom of priests. So what does that mean for us? The Torah explains, mostly in the book of Leviticus, what it means to be holy. But to have the mindset of a head of a group, a spiritual leader in our own communities, means something more. The beginning of this week's Torah portion, Devarim, articulates the values that leaders and judges must uphold. Provide yourselves with holy individuals, wise, understanding, and knowledgeable for your tribes, and I will set them as heads over you. Medieval Sephardic Jewish philosopher Maimonides taught that one need not demand that a judge for a court of 3 possess all of these qualities, but a judge must, however, possess 7 attributes: wisdom, humility, fear of God, loathing for money, love for truth, being beloved by people at large, and a good reputation. And therefore, if each of us, as being a part of a kingdom of priests, a kingdom of those that hold ourselves to that higher standard, each of us should live every day with those values in the forefront of our minds. And yet, as we hold those values, we recognize how painful it is when those in power do not hold those values. We expect others, especially our leaders, to have wisdom, humility, love for truth, and a desire to maintain a good reputation. It hurts when any leader misses the mark. It hurts even more when an Israeli government leader or a rabbi puts themselves and their own interests above these values. When a leader, someone who should act with holiness, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge for their tribe, acts contrary to this moral code, we find ourselves saying, it's bad for the Jews. Their bad actions, we infer, make us all look bad. It is somewhat comforting, however, to know that we are not alone in this idea. People of color and other groups on the margins of society feel this similar one bad apple spoils the whole barrel pressure. Indeed, we can use an empathetic approach to show ourselves and others that a few bad actors do not represent who we are as a Jewish people. We can and should double down on living out the values of wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and empathy. And similarly, we should remind ourselves that a few leaders in another tribe do not represent who they are as a whole. This upcoming week, Jews throughout the world will mark Tisha B'Av, a day when we remember the destruction of both temples that once stood in Jerusalem, as well as a number of other tragedies in both ancient and modern Jewish history. It is a day marked with reading the book of Lamentations, fasting, and mourning. The rabbis remind us, though, that the temples were destroyed for one reason: Sinat chinam, baseless hatred. We can and should expect ourselves and our leaders to maintain a higher standard. Yet we cannot let ourselves slip into holding on to baseless hatred. That, my friends, would not be good for the Jews. May this be a Shabbat of holiness. May this be a Shabbat of wisdom, understanding, and learning. May this be a Shabbat of wholeness, peace, shalom. For Shabbat is good for the Jews. Shabbat shalom.
Hi, this is Mike Chasen. I'm a member of Congregation Beth Israel's Board of Directors. I wanted to take just a moment of your time to let you know that there is a lot of exciting content and programs going on at Congregation Beth Israel. Tune into our website, cbisd.org, for more, and Shabbat Shalom.
We begin to conclude our service with Aleinu. If you're able, please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'ateit gedulat liyotzei breshit, shelo asanu kigoyei harasot, v'lo samanu kemishpechat ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gorolenu kechol hamolam, ve'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. When you hear the names of your loved ones, we invite you to rise as you honor and remember them. We are in the period of Shiva, the 7 days after burial, for Dr. Jeffrey Bergman, husband of Vicki Bergman, father of Audra, Jonathan Bergman, grandfather of Parker and Brenner. And we are in the period of Shloshim, the 30 days after the burial, for Sue Ellen Bellett, Ronnie Gordon, Robert Itzkin, Minnie Price, Jane Shore, and Robin Singer. And we remember those who died at this time in years past. Ralph Abulafia, Harry Adelson, James B. Allen II, Nissan Ancoli, Martha Ellen Arnold, Merwin Auslander, Richard Barrett, Alexander Burko, Joseph Berman, Deborah Halpern Burns, Freddie Beddink, Betty Blake, Hazel Blumberg, Israel I. Brody, Benjamin Brown, Bill Berger, Gail Chamberlain, Harry Cohn, Catherine Cornell, Mildred Dworitz, Herbert Eber, Edna Engel, Martha Evans, Solomon Feynman, Manny Fisher, Reva Fleischman, Eleanor Forster, Adele Frank, Pearl Friedman, Vesta Fürstenau, Rose Glickman, Irving Gold, Rabbi Bernard Binome Goldsmith, Isidore Goldstein, Estelle Goodman, Walter Greenberg, Eve Ray Grossman, Max Haubenstock, Charles Held, Nira Hoffman, Jack Kaplan, Bernard W. Kaplan, Gerald Kobernick, Bertie Leeds, John Leifer, Pepe Levy, Helen Livingston, Marcy Merrill, Annie Merrifield, Betty D. Metellitz, Lorraine Milstein, Lillian Nadler, Bunny Luftig Nassoff, Rachel Oren, Cheryl Paul, Raymond Perlman, Sylvia Ragsdale, Herman Ray, Samuel Recht, Alexander Remish, Dawn Rubin, Tony Rubin, Marvin Schiffman, Audra Silver, Joseph Slate, James Small, Benjamin Spira, Minna Stanford, Edward Stryker, Annie Temple, Louis B. Tischler, Melvin Udoff, Ida Wax, Aaron Wechter, Francis Weinstein, Armand Winheld, Marcia Wolf, Irving Leonard Wool, Charles Zion, and Edward Gerald Zweibel. If I have not mentioned a name and you are saying Kaddish, please rise, share that name, and honor their memory. And together we rise and join in Kadisha Tom, our mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Bi'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach le'alam u'lolmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha brichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiran v'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories always be for blessing. We conclude with Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom Biroma, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imru
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.